Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on that journey with me to Ethiopia, one of my favorite countries in the world. I decided to go to Ethiopia for my 30th birthday. I wanted to celebrate in an enormous way, and as a female entrepreneur myself, I thought what better way than to empower 30 women in this incredible country to start their own businesses. So I went to Ethiopia and I launched a one-day-long fundraiser with my production partner, CrowdRise. CrowdRise is a crowdfunding platform. And we raised over $42,000 in that one day. All of that money went directly on the ground to help these Ethiopian women start their own businesses. So that was not only a celebration of my 30th birthday, but also what I do for a living. I'm a social entrepreneur and a global humanitarian. I run a company called Travel Mal, which is my nickname, but it represents how I've combined my personal passions with a business model that truly creates impact around the world. So although my name's Mallory Brown, you can all call me Travel Mal. It's much easier to remember. But I am standing here today talking to you as a businesswoman from Detroit. Truly, when I'm in my best self, I look like this. I'm somewhere in a developing country, a little sweaty with a bandana in my hair, and I'm helping people in need. This is when I feel the most alive, and everything I work for is for moments like this when I can be on the ground and making a difference. My business has taken me all around the world. I've been to 42 countries. I always carry my trusty travel bag with me. I sew on a patch from every single country that I've been to. So this baby's been with me since the first trip I ever took when I was 18 years old. I went to Germany. Germany was the very first patch, and it's filled up quite a bit since then. So my business is essentially a media company. I run an impact production company. So I partner with brands and companies here in the U.S. that want to give back around the world through employee engagement programs, through corporate social responsibility, and I create custom charity campaigns for them. I travel to individual locations around the world for very specific causes and film what is happening on the ground so that the companies and supporters back here can see exactly how their donation is making a difference. To me, this is the best way to communicate actual needs because women in a village called Chapa in Ethiopia is a really hard thing for people to grasp. I mean, no one really knows what that is. Most people can't even point out Ethiopia on a map. But if I can go there and I can film it and show in real life what life is like living in poverty, it is so much easier to communicate a message and to gather support. So my work has taken me all around the world. I am constantly asked if I have a specific area of expertise, and I really try to zigzag the globe. My main message is that people are all alike. We are all so much more alike than we are different. And whether I'm in Kenya, or I'm in Honduras, or I'm in Cambodia, I find the same basic human needs. We are all trying to have food, water, shelter, clothing for our families. Everyone needs economic empowerment. Everyone needs education. All of the needs are the same. And just because we speak different languages and we practice different religions, we are all human. So my main goal is to travel and show that I'm a girl from the Midwest. I'm born and raised in Detroit, and I can stand next to a woman in Ethiopia who speaks zero English, yet I can connect with her and what she's trying to do with her life. She's trying to start a business in Ethiopia, and I start a business in Detroit, Michigan. We have so much in common. I think seeing these two cultures come together, that breaks down barriers, and that shows everyone watching that we're all on the same team. We're all trying for the same thing in life. So the way that I work is it's very engaging. I travel with a film crew. You can see my videographer, Ryan. He has been with me through all of my travels, has become one of my best friends. And we film documentary style. It's very, very real. In the moment, we shoot and we edit on the ground, and we send all of that back to our supporters here. So if there's a company that's hosting a gala and trying to raise a ton of money for a clean water well, I would be on the ground showing them in real time, this is what life is like right now. These are the people that you're affecting. This is what they look like. This is what they sound like. This is the reaction that they have when you give their village a clean water well. That connectivity is the future of philanthropy. We live now in a digital age where, I mean, my generation feels very connected to the entire world. Kids growing up now, they want to go study in South Africa when I'm in high school. I mean, the world is shrinking massively in size, and this is a great opportunity for the philanthropic community to bring together people from around the world. Take the resources that we have here, the people that we want to help, the financial support that we have here in the U.S., and directly connect them to people in need. My main goal in my work is to be that link. I want to be the connector that takes people who want to help and directly puts them in touch with the people that need the help. And if we can cut out all of the other nonsense and just get the support directly on the ground, that is the most effective way to accomplish your mission. So where did this start? How did I get onto this path in my life? I grew up in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Born and raised here. I went to Farmington High School. Then I went to Albion College, a small liberal arts college in Michigan. And when I graduated, I rewarded myself with a backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. So this is a photo of me. I'm crossing from Thailand into the country of Laos. I was on a little boat. And this trip was really, I went because I wanted some adventure. I wanted to see what life was like on the other side of the world. And it was my first exposure to true poverty, to people that were living day to day, that could not support their family, that didn't know how they were going to feed their family tomorrow. And it changed my perspective. I think anyone who's done any sort of mission trip, or if you've gone on the ground, you are humbled very quickly with what you have and the opportunities that you have. And so when I was crossing this river into Laos, to one of the poorest countries in the world, this is the first photo that I snapped, and these children came up to me right away to ask me for help. And I walked around this little harbor, and I came across this woman, and I grant this woman sole credit for my entire career. She looked about my age. I was 20 years old at the time, yet I was traveling on a backpacking trip on the other side of the world after having received my college education. And she was a mother of 2 young kids, selling roots and potatoes and whatever else that was sitting in front of her, I don't know. And she's begging for someone to buy a root or a potato, and she looks at me straight in the eye and she asks me to buy something. And I had no local money. I just crossed the border. I didn't really want a root or a potato or whatever she was selling, but I was so compelled to help her that I took off my sunglasses and I walked up and gave it to her. And the gratitude on her face was incredible, because she could never afford those sunglasses herself. I mean, she wouldn't wear sunglasses. That connection I had stayed with me forever. I'm actually trying to go back to Laos. It's been 10 years, and to find this woman again and thank her, because she sent me on a totally different path in life. And that moment changed my life. I came home. I thought, I have so many talents and so many skills. I come from a family of filmmakers. I studied business. I have a very entrepreneurial mind. I can put all of this to good use, and I can create ways to help people like her. So I created my company, and I have been in this industry for 7 years. I have been a female entrepreneur. I've supported myself since I was 24 years old, and I have helped people all around the world. I've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars 100% of which goes to helping causes on the ground. Every single campaign I do has two partners. There is a corporate partner here in the U.S. I work largely on corporate sponsorship. I work with marketing companies and brands that want to do good in the world, engage their employees, and promote their brand. And then I have a nonprofit partner on the ground. That's the person on the ground in Ethiopia that is with those women every day, ensuring that they get the proper business training, that the businesses are successful, that they are, the help that I was able to provide for my birthday is a sustainable long-term change for that village. So I have my for-profit partners here and my nonprofit partners on the ground. And I exist somewhere in between. All of my work is showcased in video, so if you want to watch that one again or see me on the ground anywhere in the world, you can go to YouTube and watch all of my videos and see people from all around the world in all sorts of causes and how they have changed my life and how I've personally affected theirs. A really interesting way that I work, which I think is part of the success that I've had, is that I personally connect my donors here to the cause on the ground. I think that charity is such an incredible thing. I mean, everybody knows nonprofits are wonderful advocates. Everyone wants to give back. The problem is that often we feel very disconnected. My generation is never going to write a check and send it in the mail to a charity. That's not going to happen. We want to feel connected to the causes that we support, and we want to know that our donation is going to make a difference. It's not that we don't want to help, because we do, but that barrier needs to be broken down. So when I'm on the ground, I send personal thank you messages to my donors. This takes me 2 seconds, and it means the world to everyone that is watching back home. They see, oh my gosh, there's this woman who's got her arm around me whose name is Birakesh, and she actually knows who I am, and I really made a difference to her. And there's this connection between my friend sitting on their couch in Novi, Michigan, and this woman in Chapa, Ethiopia. And I do this constantly to engage my donors and to really bring people together across the world. My donor retention rate is out of control. It's almost 100%. People that give to my campaigns continually give because they see a direct impact from their donation. When charities can embrace this and operate in this way, this is essentially it's customer relations if you're a business. But that is so important to have really strong donor relations. And that's one of the differentiating factors of the way that I work. So as you can tell, my business is very personal to me. It's an extension of myself and my heart and the things that I stand for, and I put them out in the world. Because I physically travel, I am gone a lot, and I put my all into what I'm doing. There's no separation between Travel Mal, the business, and Mallory Brown, the woman. I mean, I am they are the same. They are accomplishing the same goals. They have the exact same motivations and the same struggles. And I have these 5 tenets that I live by, which I try to emulate in everything my business does. And I want to share them with you. If you can remember these, if you could start your day and wake up every morning thinking of one of these 5, it'll be a drastically better day. But I believe that people are good. People are so good. The people that I'm helping on the ground are trying so hard. They are walking miles a day carrying water on their head. I have met kids that have left their own parents in pursuit of an education, and they want to learn to better their lives. I mean, they are trying so hard. They are so good and just need better resources. My donors back here are so good. I have had incredible support. People come out of the woodwork and give so much of their time and so much of their money to help causes that I am personally passionate about. People all across the board are good. Kindness is everywhere. Everywhere. I am asked, 42 countries I've been to, and I travel pretty much alone. I travel with a really small crew, and everyone asks me immediately, is it dangerous? No, it's not dangerous. The world is filled with kindness. You have to open your eyes to see it, because it's very easy to focus on your one moment of danger and ignore the 500 moments of kindness that happened around it. But the world is filled with kindness. Diversity should be celebrated. I love sitting in a hut surrounded by people that don't speak my language, listening to local music, eating food that I am not really sure what they're cooking, but it tastes okay, and realizing that life is different than the way that I knew it. I mean, I grew up in one singular path in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and people live very different lives all around the world. Diversity should be celebrated. This is a wonderful, wonderful part of our world, and separating people is definitely not the answer. To expose everyone to different cultures, different ways of doing things, it opens your mind. I believe that change is possible. I see it happen every day. I went to Haiti and I helped a family in 2015. I raised $10,000, which is a small amount of money in U.S. standards, and it drastically transformed a family of 6. Moved them into a new house and employed the mother. She was a single mother of 5, enrolled all 5 kids in school. I went back 2 years later to check in on that family, and they were different people. The kids had all grown like 2 feet because they were finally well-nourished. The mom was a successful entrepreneur, and she was adopting a 6th child because she wanted to help more. She felt like she had received such a gift from my $10,000 that she could then give back and adopt another child. That is incredible change. I see change happen every day. Change is 100% possible. And lastly, I believe that one person can make a difference. I try to embody this myself. I see tons of people around the world that are really, really impacting others. And, you know, if my life can stand for something, it is that you have a voice, you can impact other people's lives, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. One person can absolutely make a difference. So what's next for me? Everyone always asks, and since I work on different projects, I have 2 upcoming projects which are near and dear to my heart. The first is a story about how a cup of tea bonded me with an Ethiopian child named Johannes. I met him originally when he was 12 years old, and then I returned 4 years later, and we recreated our initial cup of tea. He is on an incredible journey for education, and I'm working to get his college sponsored right now. Johannes is a true friend of mine. We stay in touch via Facebook. Social media is an incredible tool when you're dealing internationally, and I love this kid so much. I'm also embarking on a global marathon for women's empowerment. It's called Walk a Mile, and it's the story of walking a mile with other women, working women around the world. I'm filming 26 different episodes in 26 locations around the world, so they add up to a marathon, all connecting different working women that are fighting for a better life for their families. These are my next 2 big projects, which are pretty big undertakings, but to me, the more that I do, the more that I want to accomplish. I think most entrepreneurs feel that way. You start something, and whether it's successful or it fails, you just have to keep going. It's something you get addicted to. I guess it's our little drug. But I have big dreams and big goals, and I am now 31 years old, but I can only see doing this for the rest of my life. My mom always asks me if if I'm done yet. Am I done? Am I done with the huts and the traveling and the everything? But I will never stop because it's where my heart really lies. I feel like I have poured myself out to you guys, and I want to invite Anu up and see if there's any questions, or if you guys have any questions. I am an open book, and I would love to share all of my secrets or anything I've learned from all of my travels. Thank you guys so much.
All right. So Mallory, first of all, I think you're the TiECon Detroit hero. What say, guys? Right? All right. Thank you very much for sharing your story, but I have a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you identify a project? I know you're a go-between between the corporate sponsor here, and then you work with a nonprofit back in whichever country you decide or you come up with. But how do you identify the need? That's my first question. And second is, what's the whole deal about this international funding? Because there's transfer of funds involved between two countries, and there are a lot of legal restrictions as well. How do you make that happen?
Okay, well, so how do I identify my projects? I don't really have a very specific process. Most of them are ones that resonate with me for some way or the next. I'm very well connected in the humanitarian world. I have a lot of contacts all around the globe, and so I look for very strong nonprofit partners on the ground, people that understand what I'm trying to accomplish and can receive me and help facilitate the whole campaign. It's an interesting dynamic because a lot of, I bring a film crew, and a lot of times the locals need to be really open to involving me and receiving it, and we get right in there and don't hold much back. So it's not for everyone. And I find that smaller nonprofits are easier to work with from my perspective because they don't have as many rules and regulations. I have worked with large organizations, but World Vision has a lot of there's a lot of qualifications that you have to meet, and that I might not be able to really get in and personally be there. So I look for just really strong nonprofits, and I work mostly in international poverty, but I do local campaigns as well. So I've worked in the U.S., in Detroit, in Appalachia, and with the homeless community in Las Vegas. So I am also open to domestic projects, but really just a cause that resonates with me. That's that's a basic human need. That's sort of breaking us down to the essentials of human life. And the international transfer of funds is that's an interesting one. I work it out individually with the nonprofits that we have, and most of the time they already have a system set up to transfer funds from donors in the U.S. What I do is really amplifying what's already happening. So if there's a nonprofit that is very small and they're struggling to find funding, that's who I would partner with, but they already have the infrastructure set up, so they already have their bank accounts and their transfer fees and their runners, and they have people that they understand this process, and so I'm an amplifier. I go in and just shock them and try to raise a ton of money and a ton of awareness to the great work that they're already doing.
The next one is breaking stereotype notion of, oh my God, my daughter is going to some unknown land in a strange place with strange people, eating strange food. So what was your reaction when you told your parents that, hey mom, dad, I'm just taking off. I'm going to be doing what pleases my heart. So what was the initial reaction, and how did you break that stereotype notion? Because I'm sure that a lot of women would agree. I mean, I'm sure we all come from close-knit families where parents do have a say, at least not in a point where they're going to influence our lives in a way that they're going to change our decisions. But how did you break that stereotype notion that, hey, you know what, I'm a woman, I'm going to do what pleases my heart, in terms of where my heart takes me?
Right. That's a great question. So when I first started, I had a ton of initial support because I was a young girl who had these big dreams of trying to help people. So what's there not to love and support? When when it turned into an actual viable business, and this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life and going to be seriously influencing people, and when it became very real and that this was a long-term career choice for me, there was a distinct moment that all of my friends and my family sort of switched gears. And I have this phrase, which I love, which is default to good. So I used to travel, and everyone would assume the worst until they heard from me. So one of my first trips, I was in Indonesia, and there was an earthquake. And where Indonesia is situated in the world, it's like natural disaster prone. Every single thing happens there. There's earthquakes, there's tsunamis, there's landslides, there's volcanic eruptions. I mean, it's just prime for natural disasters. It's very sad. So I was there, and there was an earthquake, and the news reported it, and my Facebook blew up, and everyone was trying to contact me, people trying to call me, like my phone is clearly not going to work, and everyone's freaking out, and I had no idea that there was even an earthquake in Indonesia. I mean, that's like saying that there was a tornado in Kansas, but we're here in Detroit. I was fine. There was nothing that happened. I had to open my email in order to find out that this had happened. And so I contacted everyone and said, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. It's totally fine. I'm so far from that. Indonesia is a giant country. But instead of assuming that I'm hurt, could you just do me a favor and default to good? And assume that I'm not hurt, and assume all is going well. And if I tell you otherwise, then act on that. But that change of mindset really made a huge difference. One of the most dangerous projects I ever did is I went to Nepal in 2015 after the earthquake hit. I don't know if you remember, but there was a giant earthquake in Kathmandu. It made the news. There was an avalanche on Mount Everest, and so some famous climbers died in that avalanche. But I went there to do disaster relief, and the ground was still shaking, and there was a second earthquake that hit when I was on the ground. And that was a little bit scary. It was actual disaster relief, and my life probably was a little bit in danger, but most of my friends and family took what I said to heart, and they defaulted to good, and they assumed I was okay, and I was. And I find, as I said before, it's not nearly as dangerous as it appears to be. And if you go through life afraid of every little thing, you're never going to accomplish anything. So instead, default to the 99.999% chance that everything will be okay, and everything will be okay.
And my final question, final but one. Do you have any kind of political hurdles? Because, the kind of countries that you're going, there's a lot of political instability. And in terms of the work that you do, most of the times when charitable organizations or NGOs work on the ground, there are a lot of political affiliations, politically affiliated groups who kind of take ownership, or they kind of, involve in some kind of a negative aspect to the work that's going on. Mm-hmm. So did you have any kind of political hurdles as yet, or was that a challenge or at any point of time in your 40 country?
That's a great question. So I don't go directly into like war zones or places that are, we have strong political tensions with. I did, however, once I was traveling in Africa, and I was trying to get into Sudan when the borders were closed to Americans because it was 2012 and Benghazi had just happened. And so sometimes I deal with political issues in terms of getting a visa or getting the rights to go into a country and open access. An American passport, it's an interesting one to have. It's a fantastic passport to have, but we've got a lot of stances out there in the world that everybody knows about. So I've run into a few just administrative hurdles, but in that instance, I did get into Sudan, and I spent time there, and the Sudanese were incredibly wonderful people, and they were so, so, so kind to me and went out of their way to make me feel welcome in their country. And so my bigger lesson from that is not the hurdle that a stamp in my passport caused me, but that a country that many Americans fear is filled with incredible people that are so kind, that invite me into their homes, that offer me, I mean, a total stranger from the other side of the world, and they're treating me like their own child. The Sudanese are wonderful people, and I would rather tell that story than the fact that I had to wait an extra week to get my visa.
And when is India?
India is number one on my to-go list, on my bucket list, so I will be very soon.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, a social entrepreneur and global humanitarian, Mallory Brown. Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you.